What's up, everyone? So one question I get often is, when do you take a tree stand versus when do you take a saddle? And they both have their uses. They're both great tools and they're both effective. So either way, like, you're probably gonna do good if you know how deer operate and deer function, and that's much more important than what your gear is. Like, you know, if you understand how deer use a piece of property and you can set up on them, you can kill them from the ground. The advantages to being in a tree in general are just, you know, better. You can see them coming from further distance away and you can get set up and like they don't see you as well versus being on the ground. Like, that's the main advantage, and it just gives you a bird's eye view of a lot of things. So that's why you would even use one in general. But the other thing I want to say is real quick is that hunters are a small enough group as it is. I think the division between like saddle hunters and non-saddle hunters, and people calling themselves saddle hunters or non-saddle hunters, are is kind of silly. Like, we're a small enough group. There's no need for that division. When people ask me if I'm a saddle hunter, I just say I have a saddle. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't, and that's where I think everybody should be headed, because, like, yeah, why try to divide yourself? And everything has its purpose. So in general, why would you use one or the other? So the tree stand, if I am going on a short walk, or I'm going on a long sit, like 6 or 7 hours or more, or the tree sets up for a tree stand better, that's when I'm going to pull my tree stand. So short walk, you know, half mile, less than half mile, I'll grab the lone wolf and pop out there, depending on what the situation is, if I have it ready and all that. As far as setting, if I'm going on a long sit, I do still think, like, regardless of what a lot of people say about comfort, like, this is the AeroHunter Kestrel Flex. I've sat in a few different tree saddles. This one's the most comfortable I've sat in, but at the same time, even like 6-7 hours, like, your legs just start to get a little tired, a little fatigued. Like, sitting 3, 4, 5 hours, not an issue. I also don't run a platform, so that might be one of my problems. I have run a platform for a few hours and it didn't make a whole lot of difference to me versus just standing on the top stick. So I just put 4 sticks up and stand on the top one. So maybe that was my issue, is that I only ran it for a few hours. But in general, like, you're still just going to get a little bit more comfort out of a tree stand than a saddle. That's just my opinion. And we're talking, like, we're splitting hairs here. Like, you're talking maybe a 10 out of comfort for the tree stand and a 9 for the saddle. Like, it's not like it's uncomfortable. It's just a little more comfortable to be in the tree stand. So that's the long sit piece. And the other piece about setting up for a left-handed shot if the tree sets up for the tree stand. So in Wisconsin, you're not allowed to trim. And if you're not allowed to trim, sorry, I'm swatting at everything. There's a bunch of mosquitoes out this morning. If the tree sets up for a left-handed shot, so you're not allowed to trim, and there's certain trees that just do not work for a saddle. There's branches in the way, there's all sorts of crap, but the other side of the tree sets up for a tree stand really well. So if I know that's the case, I'm going to bring my tree stand. And what I mean by that is, you know, when you're in a saddle, say the tree's right here. When you're in a saddle, you're looking at the tree, and you always want your shot to be off to the left if you're right-handed. So if I'm on the back side of the tree and the deer are coming on my left, I can draw and shoot pretty easily, and there's no branches or anything here. And maybe there's a ton of branches on the front side of the tree. Versus vice versa, like, sometimes there's a ton of branches on the back side of the tree, and it sets up terribly for a saddle, and the other side of the tree sets up great for a tree stand. So that's when I would use that. And there are plenty of scenarios like that. I kind of have them marked out, and I've learned the different trees that I like to sit in different areas. So I just kind of know that. But otherwise, if I'm going in blind, saddles are a little bit more versatile than a hang-on. So in general, like, and how that comes to be is just this like 3 foot frame right here. That can sometimes be like a difference maker. Like, if you got a tree that's got some real tight branches in there, or it's got a bunch of knots on it, and you can't get that back frame to push up nicely against the tree, like, that can become a dicey situation. Been in those many times. So this is a little bit more versatile to get in the tree because you just need a rope to wrap around the tree. If I'm going on long walks, like a mile, mile and a half, 2 miles in, like I'm taking the saddle just because it's lighter. You know, it's a lot lighter. I pack it up into this little mesh bag here, just throw it on my backpack. It's pretty much like non-existent. So that's when I'm using this. Or if I'm going in blind, I get more versatility out of it. Or if I'm going in and I'm going in blind, I don't know what tree I'm going to, I don't know anything about the area, I'm gonna take the saddle because I'll probably be walking for a long time trying to pick out trees. Like if it takes me 30 minutes to walk to the tree, it takes me another 30 minutes just to figure out what tree to get into, because I'm always weighing all these different options, and I'm sure many of you have that same thought as well. The other thing is if I'm walking through a lot of brush, you know, this tree stand is a big old metal frame on the back, and you get some tinging, some metal clanging, you get some sticks getting stuck in here. It's harder to walk through a ton of crap with a tree stand versus the saddle. Like I said, it's in a little mesh backpack on my back. So those are the main reasons that I'd use one or the other. I'd say honestly, I probably take my saddle about 70 to 80% of the time and my tree stand about 20 to 30%. It just depends on the scenario, what I'm doing, and all those different factors I just talked about. And one other thing, I agree with a lot of the saddle hunting videos and the advantages of using a saddle. The one thing I don't really agree with is the whole 360-degree shooting around a tree. For me, yes, you can do it before all you haters come after me. Yes, you can do it. But the problem with that is that, like, if I have deer coming in, like, I'm generally in tight, close quarter areas, and when all of a sudden I see a deer, it's going to be 30, 40 yards or closer, maybe 50 yards and closer. I'm not seeing deer 100 yards out, 150, 200 yards out, generally speaking. I'm in close quarter scenarios. So when I see them, I'm not willing to start shuffling around a tree to get a different shot or start leaning one way. I'm trying to reduce my movement as much as possible, and I'm also trying to set up as strategically as possible so that when the deer come in, I don't need to move. I don't want to move if I'm in a tree stand or a saddle. Like when I see a deer, I want to stay as still as I can until they're looking away and I got a broadside shot or whatever, and I can draw and shoot. Like that's the only movement I want to have. I don't want to swing around a tree or shuffle around a tree. So yes, you can shoot 360 degrees, but is it like feasible when you got a deer within 30 yards? Kind of not really. I mean, I think you got like a 10% chance of being successful if you do that, just because of the movement aspect. Deer's eyes are prone to pick up movement. Like that's what they're built for. And if you're like leaning and swinging around a tree, they're probably going to pick you out and take off. Sorry if I'm swatting around a lot, because there's a bunch of mosquitoes out this morning and they are getting me. So anyway, those are my thoughts on why you would take a tree stand versus a saddle. Again, they're both just tools in a toolbox. Please don't divide yourselves into saddle hunters versus non-saddle hunters. I think it's kind of a fad and people like to belong to a group, which is cool, but belong to the group of hunters. Belong to a group of bow hunters. Don't belong to some niche little tiny group and try to distinguish yourself as better or cooler than other hunters because you have what I affectionately refer to as a diaper in the tree. It is just another tool. It's extremely effective. I like them a lot. I use them a lot. But at the same time, like when people ask me if I'm a saddle hunter, I say I have a saddle and it's in my toolbox and I use it sometimes. So hope that helps, guys. You got any questions? If I missed anything, you want any clarifications, you want to rag on me, you want to say thank you for this video, whatever it is, drop them in the comments below. You want to see more saddle stuff, more public land stuff, all that fun stuff, hit that like button and subscribe, please. All right, catch you guys later.